Hello everyone, my name is Moses and you are welcome to Stable Rock Farms. On today's episode, we are going to be discussing the best practices for you as a farmer. So whether you are into livestock farming, whether you're into poultry farming, whether you're into fishery, whether you're into crop farming, whichever branch of farming you are into, there are some best practices that should be adhered to ensure that your work as a farmer is as effortless as possible and you maximize your returns as a farmer. So these are points that will be discussed in this video. So we appreciate you watching and we hope you enjoy the video as much as we enjoyed making it, right? So let's get right into it. So to begin with, before we even step into the farm, you'll notice that we have a gate, right? So obviously the point I am talking about now is security, right? So we have a fenced building. We have, if you notice, we have barbed wires, right? Then the building itself, if you look around, even the part that has not been fenced, even the part that has not been wired, the fence is quite high enough to ensure some level of security for you on the farm. So more on security, let's step in there so that you can see some more points. So if you look this way, you will notice that this is a security house. So apart from the fact that I earlier mentioned gates, I mentioned fencing, I mentioned electric wiring, we also have a security house where we have a security in there who will physically man the property, right? So you want to make sure you have exhausted all forms of security on your farm to make sure people who are not supposed to come in don't, and animals who are not supposed to go out don't, right? So another form of security is CCTV cameras, right? You should have, especially when your farm has grown to a level where your attention cannot be split, right? You can be in 5-10 places at the same time, right? But you need some level of accountability, right? So it's advisable, if you can afford it, you have CCTV cameras around your farm so that you can always check everything that is happening on the farm to ensure it's running smoothly. So far, the first point, which I have just concluded, is security, right? Physical security on your farm. Next, we are going to talk about the location of your farm, right? The location of your farm is extremely important. Are you going to be in the urban area? Are you going to be situated in the outskirts of the city? Are you going to be in a rural area? All of these have their advantages and disadvantages. Urban area, obviously, the advantage is market, right? Easy access to your final customer base. The disadvantage is costs of setting up in the urban area. Where you're going to get land, especially a farm needs, land to be able to operate, right? The bigger the land, the bigger your options, even for future expansions too, right? So getting the location for your farm is extremely important. The advantage with outskirts and rural areas is that you have access to cheap land. However, the ready market isn't there, so you most likely your final product has to be transported to another location, right? So just pick and choose, do your own analysis, know what your finances look like, and then you make your decision. Let me give you an example. Where we currently have this farm is in the urban area, right? So our livestock, poultry, fishery farms are in the urban area, while our crop farm is in a rural area in the outskirts of the city. So we, based on our own research and expert opinion, we decided to go for this because with the livestock and poultry and fishery, it's a massive investment that requires constant attention and things like that, while the crop one requires massive land. So we decided to split it into two like that, right? So you could go with something like that. So next we're going to talk about financial planning, right? So before I even start talking about financial points, let me just tell you from experience that you can never have enough funds to start your farm or to operate your farm, especially if you're operating on a large scale like we are, right? So we're into crop, livestock, poultry, fishery, and processing. So you can see that we are dabbling into so many forms of agriculture, forms of farming. So it's very, very, very tasking financially, right? So even if that wasn't the case, even if we focus just on one, maybe livestock, for example, or poultry, for example, honestly, we'll probably still never have enough funds to start. So just start. That's point number one, right? Point number two, even though I'm saying you should begin, you should just start, you should also make sure you have planned well, right? Because it's so easy to lose focus and delve into things that may end up wasting your funds, channeling it into the wrong things, right? So talk to an expert if you may, talk to friends and family who are experienced in this field, talk to anybody you can. Just try to get a second opinion on your plans so that you don't make mistakes, right? Watch videos like this to help you plan, right? So planning is very key, right? That is as much as I can say on financial implications, because everybody's farm is different, right? So what you need to do on your farm will cost you differently based on your location, based on the type of farming you want to do, based on so many different factors like that. So that is it about finances, right? After you have secured your land, after you have found the land you want to work with, you should ensure that the physical state of that land is in good condition. I'll give you an example with this. This land is in a swampy area, right? Although it's in the urban district, it's still in a swampy area. So we had to do lots and lots of sand filling before we even began any form of construction. And it was very, very cost intensive, but we felt it was a necessary thing to do. So these are all factors for you to think of. Now that we have sorted the location, next thing we're going to look at is are you purchasing or renting this land, right? If you are renting, you should, well, both of them have their advantages and disadvantages, just like the earlier point, right? If you are renting, it's going to cost you less. If you're purchasing, it's probably going to cost you more. If you are renting and you are raising up structures like this, you run the risk of erecting structures on someone's property. Once your rent expires and you're trying to renew it, what if the landlord says, hey, I'm not doing this anymore? What happens to your investment? Do you break it down? Do you go and start somewhere else? So these are all points for you to think of before you start your farm, right? So now that we have sorted out some of the basics, next thing you're going to look at is, what are you going to do on your farm, right? Let's go with livestock, for example. What kind of livestock are you going to have in your farm? So let's go with piggery, for example. Now, let's say you want to start a pig farm, and the location you live in has mostly Muslims. Now, they don't eat pork. So what is your market base? What's your customer base going to look like, right? So you should do your research. What kind of livestock are you going to go into? What is the purchasing, what is the market demand for that finished product like in that location, right? These are some of the things you should think of. What are the religious implications? What are cultural implications? And so many different factors. So make sure that whatever you're doing, there's a ready-made market for it. So the next point you're looking at is the facilities, right? What kind of facilities are you going to have on your farm, right? So I think for this point, let me just give you a practical example, right? So I showed you the gate, the security house, the fencing, the electric wiring. Let's look at what other facilities do we have on the farm, right? So if you follow me, you'll notice that here we have an overhead tank, and there is possibility of having 2 extra overhead tanks here. This is for our water needs, right? So if you follow me, you will notice that still on the issue of water, we have a borehole here that serves us on the farm. So this borehole is pumped to the overhead tank, right? Oh, by the way, we have other overhead tanks in another location, but let's go. So the reason I am currently talking about water is because as a farmer, that's one of the key things you need on your farm. You need very, very stable water, very stable source of clean water, right? Especially for your livestock, right? So here, if you notice, this is a reservoir. This is a 100,000 liter capacity reservoir, right? You won't be able to see from here, but we have another section that has overhead tank. So our water needs, we have water pumps, we have hundreds of meters of hoses that take water to different areas of the farm. We have drip irrigation. There's just so many different aspects to how you need to take care of your water needs on your farm. So water is very key. So water is just one of the facilities that you need on your farm. So have you put your facilities in check, right? So we've talked about the fencing. We've talked about the gates. We've talked about the security. We've talked about electric wiring. Now we've talked about water, right? Next, we're talking about electricity. You have electricity on your farm. If you notice, we have wires going around. We have electric bulbs. We even have solar panels. You know, there are different sources of electricity. In fact, if you look at the pipe over there that sends water to the reservoir, you need electricity to be able to do that, right? So not only do we depend on the grid from the electric provider, we also have our own generator that provides our power needs should the need arise. So these are things you need to have in place, because if you don't plan for them and you start your farm, trust me, the need is going to arise and you're going to be stuck. You're going to be in trouble because these are things that need to be available on your farm and they're not. So you see why the point I made about financial planning comes in is very key, right? Now, facilities, what next are we going to talk about? Storage. For example, you have your livestock farm. Where are you going to store the feed? Where are you going to store some machinery that you use on your farm? Where are you going to store etc, this and that, right? Storage is very important. Next, we're looking at obviously the physical structures. If you can just do a little, we have so many structures here. By the way, this like I mentioned, our farm is broken down into the livestock section, the livestock, poultry and fishery section, and then we have our crop section in another location. However, for this livestock, poultry and fishery, it has been demarcated into 4 different parts. So we have the area where we have the pigs, which you have seen most of the time on my YouTube page. You have not seen the poultry section. You haven't seen the fishery section. You know, you haven't seen, okay, you have seen some parts of the goats and sheep. You haven't even seen the cattle section. So there's so many different sections to it, right? Now, you haven't even seen the garden. You haven't seen the processing part. So all of these things are physical structures. So you have to plan for them for whichever type of farming you're going to do. If you're going to have physical structures on your farm, you need to plan for that, right? Then, for facilities, what else are we going to talk about? Yeah, I mean, like water channels where water is going to pass through. So many different things. So just to round up so that I don't take too much of your time, facilities are very key. It's a very key factor to check out when you are starting your farm. What next? Next, let's say you have decided to keep pigs on your farm, or goats, or sheep, right? So you need to have knowledge on how to take care of these animals. What kind of feeds are they going to eat? What alternative feeds are you going to go with so that you save on cost? What kind of medication do they need, right? These are all things that you need to know beforehand so that nothing, once you bring your livestock on the farm, nothing comes as a surprise where you make a costly mistake, right? So, man, this is a topic that is so extensive that it's a standalone video on its own, right? But anyway, that is another thing you need to look out for. Then, let's say the next point is the breed of the animal you are going to bring, right? So if it's crop farming, what kind of variety are you going for? If, let's say it's rice, for example, are you bringing Faro 44? What type of rice is it going to be? If it's maize, are you going for your initial, you know, like seedlings that you're going to use? Are you going for pioneer seeds? Are you going for Seedco? Are you going for the local seeds in your vicinity, in your market? So whichever type of farming it is, you always need to look out for what species, what breed, what, you know, are you going for? Know your financial capability, know which ones are best for your location, etc. So these are points to look out for beforehand, you know. Next thing we're looking at, especially if it's a livestock farm, is access to professionals, a veterinarian, for example, right? If you are keeping cattle on your farm, right, you need to have a veterinary on standby, even if they're not coming to check your farm, but you should know a veterinarian so that first-hand questions can be asked should the need arise, right? You don't know it all, right? You need to have an expert on call to be able to give you directive on some things, right? So so having a veterinarian is another key aspect to this. Then next, you need staff, right? You need to have capable staff to be able to carry out duties on the farm for you. You are not coming to do everything yourself. Or even if you're starting with a very small farm and you are the only farmer, you yourself, you are the capable staff, right? You need to be knowledgeable. If you are getting people, they need to be knowledgeable. They need to know what they are doing. They need to know how they are doing it. They need to know when they're supposed to do it. They need to know what they are not supposed to do. So getting capable staff is very key. And at the risk of sounding, I don't even know the word for it, I would say just try to treat your staff well, right? Treat them well, they treat your farm well, everybody's happy, right? So this is very key, especially if you run a big farm like ours where they are going to be fully involved in your farm, and you have sunk in a lot of investment. You need to invest in your staff also, so that you get maximum performance and output, right? So that is that. Next we're going to look at is networking, right? I know this is a point many people forget, but be it whatever type of farming you're doing, whether livestock, poultry, fishery, crop processing, whatever it is, make sure you join the local associations for this type of farming. Let's say it's poultry, right? You have a chicken layer farm, so your chicken, they lay eggs and you sell. You need to join the local groups of other farmers, so that you know the best practices, the average sale prices, customer base, and things like that. You need to always be in the know. This association can help with buyers and sellers, things like that. You always need to know what is happening regarding your field of farming. And the best way for this is to join local associations that have people of like minds, right? Now, I've talked about networking. The next thing I'm going to talk about is marketing. You need to have a marketing strategy for your finished product. Once you have let's say you have a chicken farm. Again, let's use chicken for example. You have a broiler farm, right? After 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, you are ready to sell your chicken, your broilers, right? Now, if you don't have a marketing strategy in place, how are you going to sell this, right? What differentiates you from the 100 other chicken broiler farmers in your location? If you don't have a marketing strategy, you're just going to have a finished product with no buyer. So this is something you have to put into consideration when you are starting your farm. You need to start that research way ahead of time, even before your product has reached the stage where it needs to start being marketed, right? We have, actually, that's good. You should subscribe and look forward to a video we are going to post soon on marketing strategy for our farm. Especially with the size of our farm, we need to have a very foolproof marketing strategy to be able to survive, right? We dabble into so many different types of farming, and we just need to have a very solid marketing strategy. And we have shot a video on that, and we will be dropping it here soon for you guys, and hopefully you will get some pointers and ideas, right? Now, what next are we going to look at for your farm to ensure your farm is running efficiently? Waste management, right? How are you going to manage waste on your farm? Be it whatever kind of farming it is, there's going to be waste. How are you going to efficiently manage this waste in a way that probably you can even monetize, right? Now, let's look at cattle farming. You have a cattle farm, and cattle are known for their dung. Daily you get lots and lots of cattle waste, cattle dung. What do you do with it? This has over the years become a very, very good source of manure for crop farms, right? So for us who also have a crop farm, we don't need to sell our cattle dung, right? We'll just take it to our crop farm. However, let's say you don't have a crop farm, you only have a cattle farm. What do you do with this waste? This is where networking comes in. This is where marketing comes in. So instead of the cattle dung becoming a liability for you on your farm, you could sell it, right? It could even become another source of power for you, power generation. There are different things you can do with this waste, right? So have a plan for your waste. That's your waste management plan. So let's see what else. Just you yourself as the owner of the farm. I think I will probably close with this, as the video is becoming quite lengthy. Be in the right state of mind, your mental health, your mental state, because trust me, you are going to sink a lot of finances, your time, your energy, your money, it's going to cost you a lot. So you need to be you need to ensure that your mental state is also in check, right? Try to take care of yourself so that you can be able to take care of your farm. So these are a few points. I mean, it's endless. We could talk for hours on end, and we'll probably not even scratch the surface on the things you need to, the practices you need to adhere to be able to have a good farm. So let us know if there are any points that we forgot to mention, and or if there are points we mentioned but you feel you have a different opinion. Let us know, and we will have this discussion in the comment section. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you in the next video.